What's going on, guys? We are Tottenham TV here, back with another opposition preview. Chelsea at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Thursday night, 8 p.m. kickoff. I'm here with Louis Beneventi. Welcome back to the channel. Good to have you back on, mate.
It's good to be back. I've not been in the office for, 11 months?
It's been a while. It has been a while.
Just because of all the rubbish. And it's changed so much, and it's awesome. And you're obviously full-time now as well.
Yeah, I'm full-time. This is my first week, full-time. I quit my job. I've gone full-time We Are Tottenham TV. Big up. But yeah, look, we've got a big game on Thursday, which I personally, at the moment, I'm not looking forward to much, given our current plight, 2 wins in 9. You got the new manager in, Thomas Tuchel or Tuchel, whatever. I don't know how do you pronounce it. Tuchel? Tuchel's how you pronounce it?
Because apparently it's too cool for school. No,
is he the German Frank Lampard? Who is he?
He's another one. He's another Kloppite apparently.
Okay.
So he started off at Mainz, developed, took them to Europa League. I spoke to a German football guy the other day, and he said that's basically the equivalent of Burnley getting Europa League football.
Fair.
Which
they did under Sean Tozy. He's the
Bundesliga
Sean Dyche.
He's the Bundesliga Sean Dyche. Less of a gravelly voice though. But yeah, then obviously did really well at Dortmund. Built the squad that I pretty much have now. Still his skeleton. PSG, got them to a Champions League final. I understand there's obviously caveats to that. But, at the end of the day, he's done what managers which are better than him on paper fail to do. Look, I'm not indifferent's the wrong word. I'm intrigued to see how he develops, because I think after the Frank Lampard thing, for me personally, I don't want to get too close to Chelsea managers, because
you can't get much closer to Lampard, can you?
No, but it's this Lampard. It was like, for me, it was like you had Lampard, Conte, and Mourinho, which for me personally, I felt strong affinities to, and then obviously that kind of just collapsed each time, and every time, and now I'm kind of like, okay, well, I'm not thinking, I'm really looking forward to what this guy's doing. I'm thinking, how long is he going to last? Don't get me wrong, I am looking forward to what he's doing. He's in the hot seat. He's the Chelsea manager. 100% gets my personal backing. I don't speak for everyone. But I think, look, he plays a very nice style of football, but that's all I'm seeing at the minute. It's a lot of painting Mona Lisa's smile, but I'm not seeing a lot of grit. But it has only been 2 games, so it's not really fair to judge him after 2 games.
What I would say is it's impressive that, especially the Wolves game, even though you drew 0-0, you can see he implemented his style immediately, only a few hours on the training ground. And people were like, I remember I was speaking to a Chelsea friend of mine, and he was saying that it was terrible because look how awful the football was, and you're passing and not doing anything. It was really boring to watch. And I was sitting there thinking, all right, you didn't win, and you didn't play particularly well, but at least you can see his vision already starting to get implemented on the pitch within a few hours of him taking over, whereas some managers spend months and they can't get that vision on the pitch.
100%. Well, I mean, to be honest, I think that was one of Frank Lampard's downfalls. Obviously, in his first season, because he was working with what he had, he kind of played a more simplified, primitive version of Sarri ball. It was still very attractive football, but it was a lot more direct, rather A to B rather than A to Z to B. In the second season, obviously, we made a lot of signings. Nice problem to have, don't get me wrong. You guys will know that when you, obviously, with the Gareth Bale money, made a lot of signings as well. But he was trying to fit these players into a system, and because he didn't know what the system is and how the players fitted, we ended up losing an identity. We didn't really have a style of football that we were playing. And that was obviously his downfall. Thomas Tuchel come in, and like you said, straight away, you're seeing the 3-4-3. You're seeing, flying wing backs, which are actually wingers, basically, just a far more aggressive style, and a lot more connectivity in the passes. And I noticed that straight away. I mean, we didn't win the Wolves game, and that was disappointing. We're playing a side which was massively out of form, and to be honest, they did have the better chances than we did in that game, realistically. But look, I thought. Now it's just a case of we've had this problem for the past 3 or 4 years under Sarri, under Frank Lampard, and obviously the first couple of games under Tuchel. You can't judge Tuchel after 2 games, but there's been a lot of passing, but not a lot of finishing those opportunities. So I think that if Thomas Tuchel comes in, I think a big thing he'll have to fix will be just that edge. And I think, if he can get the best out of Timo Werner, which I believe he can, and the same with Kai Havertz, then potentially we could see a bit more of an edge over the long-term period that he would be here over the next few months.
Yeah, that's one of the Lampard's also what yards to stick to beat him with, isn't it? The fact that he spent all that money in the summer, didn't get the best out of his signings after doing so well last year. Having a transfer ban and overachieving, and then spending all that money, all that pressure coming with that, and then not getting the best out of his money. But I can kind of relate to your whole Frank Lampard situation, because I feel like we went under something similar with Pochettino, because we had a manager also who overachieved, and then he got some money to spend. All of a sudden, he started underachieving, and then he got the boot fairly quickly in that season, where a lot, he was a manager a lot of Spurs fans held close to their hearts, and we really wanted him to work, and we really wanted him to succeed and get over that blip, and it never just seemed to happen. But with Lampard, it did seem all happened very quickly. You were top of the league in December, end of November? December 3rd, you went top. Things were going rosy, looking good. You're playing decent football. And then it all went very wrong very quickly.
Yeah.
But do you think they pushed the button way too quickly on that?
I think only time will tell. I think there's obviously been a lot of news coming out. I mean, even this morning as we record this, there was the conversations where apparently Lampard didn't even speak to Roman for the 18 months he was there.
Really? That's very odd. So I thought they had a strong relationship with Abramovich and Lampard.
That's what everyone thought. So you had that, and obviously there was the talk that obviously Frank Lampard wasn't even the first choice. And look, I think everyone's going to have different opinions. I think a lot of Chelsea fans, and it was Twitter, so Twitter's not gospel. It's not. Everyone's got different opinions on there. People were split. I think. For me, I was in the mindset of, look, if Frank Lampard's been told this is a project, then you back the manager. This is a project. It's his first 6 months trying to emulate a style and build, and obviously look at what he did last year in terms of building the youth and actually trying to put a philosophy in place. And I think for me, it was too early. I mean, you look at the statistics with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Frank Lampard are two different managers. Solskjaer's been managing for nearly a decade. Frank Lampard's had 2.5 years.
Oh yeah, I guess because at Cardiff, wasn't he?
Cardiff, he was at Man United reserves. he's been doing it for a while. He did it at Mulder as well. Obviously, they're different levels, but he's still been round the mill. He still knows what he's been doing. I think it was a bit early, but it's done now. That's kind of how.
Do you think they were looking for an excuse to sack him?
Allegedly, because apparently him and Mourinho just didn't get on. He was obviously asking for Declan Rice and lots of English players, and I think the Declan Rice transfer was the biggest one because the club didn't want to spend £75 million on what they considered a flop. Someone they had released from the academy.
A bit like what United did with Pogba.
Yeah, and they didn't want to do it, which is fair enough. I still think Chelsea are massively lacking a number 6. I think that would be massive in the midfield we have currently. And I think Declan Rice is one of the best young players out there as well, already with a lot of experience. But, I mean, that's another conversation for another day. But, I mean, look, Frank Lampard and Mourinho apparently were falling out. There was, a lot of tension. But you kind of look at this and go, look, if you're going to sell him as a project rather than you will be a stopgap, then back him on that. Don't lie to him and say X, Y, and Z reasons. But look, like I said, I mean, Chelsea's managerial merry-go-round continues. I'm not sitting here saying different things like other people have said online, like Roman out, what's this, what's that, this is wrong, this is right. I'm just looking going, look, hopefully, if the right man comes in, and hopefully it's Tuchel, Chelsea will look at what he's doing and go, do you know what, let's back it and let's build a process, because it's proven, you guys proved it despite not winning anything with Pochettino. You've proven that building a foundation's massive. You've went on to build and to develop. Same with Klopp, same with Pep Guardiola at City. Sean Dyche even at Burnley. Like, people who are given time and developed, you're going to have hard stages, but it's proven that it's a good working model currently.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I don't think you hire a manager like Frank Lampard if you're not going to give him time to work things out
100%.
and give him the time to go through the bad, because there's always going to be bad patches when you're in your 2 years of management, aren't you?
This is his first. That was his first bad patch.
Really bad patch.
Yeah, and you would think there you want to help him out and develop it, but Chelsea just aren't that sort of club.
No. And it's odd they decided to sack him after a win. So they clearly decided before that game you're going to be gone.
Yeah, they were saying
very strange.
that's after Leicester though. He was going around shaking players' hands, and that was it.
But let's talk about your transfer business, because you spent over 200 million in the summer.
Wait, I was sitting in a train going.
Let's don't mention it, or elephant in the room.
Sure, that's not just me.
Yeah, you said it, not me. But Then you got Havertz for 70 million, Werner for what, 45?
50 odd, yeah.
50 odd. Ziyech for 25. Edouard Mendy for 25.
Yeah,
30 years, something like that. Obviously, Thiago Silva you got on a free. Big money on big players in key positions that you needed to work.
Yeah.
Which ones have you been impressed with, and have you been impressed with any of them as of yet? And which ones are you more hopeful for?
I think Thiago Silva's probably been the most impressive so far. He's been a bit of a stalwart, and it's Thiago Silva. Like, as soon as mentioned it was mentioned that Thiago Silva would be in a Chelsea shirt. Now I in a 12-year-old was just so excited.
Yeah, fair.
But I think that.
This is a guy wearing a Zlatan shirt, by the way. So
Mate,
clearly,
it's a banging T-shirt. I love it.
He loves the nostalgia, doesn't he?
Oh, I do.
Well, he's still banging it, isn't he? In the Serie A,
he's doing really well at the minute.
We're moving back to Chelsea.
But he's been really good. Look, I think Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, obviously they haven't.
Also, Chilwell, 50 million.
Chilwell's been all right. He's been good. I mean, he's an improvement on what we had. As much as people all talk about Marcus Alonso being superb against Burnley.
Yeah, just in time for Spurs, obviously.
That
guy.
He's
turns up against us.
He's great at scoring goals. That's fantastic. But he's a left wing back. He needs to learn how to defend as well. In the Burnley game, he didn't have to defend much, but when it was called upon, every single time when Burnley were attacking, they went down their right hand side just to try and get Marcus Alonso. He'd touch a player and then he'd be calling for a foul straight away. He wouldn't even be going in for the challenges. And if you switch off against a Lucas Moura, a Son, you will get punished. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting if he plays. I'm interested about Bale. But, look, I think that none of the players we've signed are duds. I think, obviously, football is a very, very cruel business and people will jump on you as soon as something's going wrong.
Oh, all your rival fans are looking for them to flop, aren't they? They'll jump on anything, any miss or anything.
They're not flops. They are players which I think are struggling to settle. And if you look at
can't be a flop after 6 months, can you? You need a whole season.
Exactly. Do you know what? I'd even say you need more than a season in the current climate. Maybe 18 months. Now they've come into the UK. They haven't even really been able to settle. They've had to be in lockdown in certain places. They had to do this, had to do that. You don't get to understand the culture. You don't get to bed yourself into what's going on around you. You're literally kind of just stuck in your own little world. And it's obviously it's a big part of being human. These aren't just people which are robots for £50 million. There's the human element to it as well. And I think that in the current society and the current climate, and when people might think I'm talking shit and already be hitting the comments down below, thank you very much for that. But I think that I think these guys, they're all good players. I think it's just trying to find a way to fit them in. That's where the problem lies.
The Werner one's an interesting one because he's been played on the left by Lampard. Yeah. Everyone's saying that's not his position. Don't play him on the left wing because he can't play there and he's not effective there. Lampard does try him a few times down the centre. That also doesn't work. Tuchel comes in, first couple games, right, plays him down the left. Am I right in saying that?
Indeed, yeah.
So what is his position?
Well, I mean, how did he tear you lot apart?
On up front.
Up front, but he was on the left for the pairing, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
So
they play a two. I think they played a two up front.
You had Poulsen and you had
had
Werner. We have the best hold-up striker in world football.
Yeah.
It's a fact. He won a World Cup doing that a couple of years ago.
I don't disagree with that.
I think that Timo Werner. I don't think he's a lone striker. I think he's someone who will he chases the balls down, but he needs someone with him. I think that.
Do you think he's a player who needs space? Like that's you can't play without it.
I think I mean, if you look at the pace he's got, I think there was some ridiculous stat that came out that he would have won like the 1955 Olympic gold medal because of how quick he is or something mental like that. Look, I think that he needs space. He needs to get in behind. That's his strength. He's a good finisher though as well. If he gets into the right positions, the thing with Timo Werner right now. He's not playing poorly. He's getting into the right positions. He's just not falling for him. He's just having a horrid time at the minute because he's trying to get it right, but it's just not quite there. All he needs to do is if he scores a couple of goals like he did at the beginning of the season, he'll find his feet. He's low on confidence, and I think that's something where as soon as we see a better version of him, he'll come good. People are already comparing him to Morata and such. The difference between Alvaro Morata and Timo Werner is you can see it in the mindset. You know, when
Morata was a similar player in terms of he was one getting a lot of chances and also missing a lot of chances.
But the thing with Alvaro Morata is he had a stinking attitude. You know, he was lazy. That's what I felt. Timo Werner, you can see in his face, and you can see how he's thinking. You know, there's the gif that's going on of him tearing his shirt and getting really angry. Like, that's him getting angry at the opportunities and what's not quite falling right. Alvaro Morata was just sort of like, you know, just really lazy.
Like Torres.
Yeah. But I think, you know, I think, look, Timo Werner will come good. Kai Havertz is 21. You know, I wasn't expecting him to hit the ground running. I thought it was a strange transfer, personally. You know, I think we only really signed him because we knew that other clubs being for him next summer that have much better financial.
He wasn't exactly a necessity, was he, Kai Havertz, at the time?
No, he was a luxury transfer. Luxury transfer. And I don't think you can play him and Hakim Ziyech in the same team. They are very similar players. So you have to pick and choose what games. But I think, look, it's going to be very interesting to see how Tuchel implements this, because he kind of builds a system around the players he has, rather than say, this is my system, this is how I play. He's had 3 or 4 different styles over his managerial career. So hopefully we're going to see some very interesting times at Chelsea, and hopefully all these players come good. There probably will be 1 or 2 casualties, but we don't know who it will be yet.
In terms of Thursday, I think your squad has a fairly clean bill of health. You don't have many injuries.
I think we're fully fit.
Yeah, which is not good considering we're not fully fit at all. But how do you see you guys lining up? And do you see Chelsea coming to Spurs looking to dominate possession like you have done in the past couple games? And are you confident going into this game?
Well, firstly, you know me, and I'm never confident going into any game. So I'm kind of sat there going, okay, well, let's just take it and see what happens. I think on paper Chelsea should win this game, but you know, games aren't played on paper.
Yeah.
For me, I'd do a very different line to what Tuchel's been doing. He's always been playing Jorginho and Kovacic in the pivot.
He's dropped Mason Mount straight away, hasn't he? Is that a statement?
No, he's not. Mason Mount came into the team. I think that the first game, the Wolves game, he just played the seasoned pros and the people who have just been there and done it, just because it was a safety net kind of thing. Mason Mount came in the last game and proved why he should be starting. I mean, my lineup would be very different to Tuchel's. I don't know how he'd line up. Personally, I wouldn't play Jorginho and Kovacic in the pivot. I'd play Mount and Kante. But obviously Kovacic has got the new manager bounce, which he gets every single time a new coach comes in. So it'll probably be Kovacic and Kante, maybe Mount a bit further forward on the right-hand side. He's kind of seeing players in pairs. One player that will definitely start will be Callum Hudson-Odoi.
Interesting.
He's been amazing since Tuchel's come in. You know, he's been playing as that wing-back role.
So Ziyech won't play on the right-hand side?
No, it'll be. It's looking like a 3-4-3, so it might be Ziyech in the front three.
3-4-3. You play 3 at the back under Tuchel.
Playing 3 at the back at the minute.
Oh, that's why Azpilicueta's there on the.
Yeah.
So who plays wing back on the right?
Hudson-Odoi.
He plays wing back.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting
So
selection.
you have like Hudson-Odoi. You have. I think he's, like I said, he's looking at people in pairs. I think he sees Hudson-Odoi and Reece James as a pairing. Hudson-Odoi. The way that Tuchel plays, his wing backs still operate as wingers. You know,
does that not leave you a bit vulnerable at the back?
No, it hasn't so far, but we've played Wolves and Burnley, so I can't really comment on that. This is going to be the first real test for me. And he might alter it. He might change how we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that overall, it's going to be a very, very interesting scenario. But you will be seeing a back 3, probably Rudiger, Thiago Silva.
Rudiger's come back in. That's interesting because Zuma's was having a great season, wasn't he?
I know.
So why has he put Rudiger back in?
German connection, I think. I think it's just.
Is it very simplistic to think that he's going to improve all these players just because he's German? Is that a simplistic attitude,
yes.
Or do you think it's the way he plays that could improve them?
It's so simplistic. He'll get the best.
German.
He'll get the best out of these. He'll get the best out of these German players. I'm like, will he?
They like Bratwurst, don't they? Yeah, come on,
mate. It's like just getting a Swedish person and just get on with Zlatan. Oh, you're from Malmo as well, are you? Oh, brilliant. Let's go get coffee and be mates. It's like, no.
You're saying if Tammy Abraham goes off form, you might get Sean Dyche in.
Tammy Abraham, you know what? Tammy Abraham for me is just not. He's not Chelsea quality.
Think so?
No, he's a very good, solid Premier League striker. He's a bit like a Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Right.
What'll happen is if he left Chelsea, he'd go somewhere, he'd do really, really well, and people would go, "Why did we sell him?" He doesn't put his body on the line. He wants it to be perfect. You know, he wants the ball straight to his feet. He wants to be able to just jump and head it. He doesn't throw himself out there.
Doesn't make chances for himself.
No, I mean, that game against Luton where he got the hat-trick, right? He could have scored 5 or 6, but he didn't push himself. Again, personal opinion. People might think I'm being mean because he did still get a hat trick, but you know what? The world's not a nice place at the minute, so it's kind of, you know, you just got to
deal with it.
Exactly, bitch. Any women that do watch this, I'm very, very sorry. Okay, I didn't mean to call you that.
Misogynist, Louis Beneventi.
But yeah, I think that Chelsea's lineup, Mendy, your back three will probably be Azpilicueta, Thiago Silva, Rudiger, because they've not conceded.
I would worry about the pace there, wouldn't you?
I mean, it's a back three. I mean, I think Dave's pretty decent at mopping up still. You know, just that you'd have him there. You're probably then looking at Hudson-Odoi on the right. I'll put Alonso on the left probably because he scored.
Alonso ahead of Chilwell. Was Chilwell fit for the weekend?
Chilwell was fit.
You just didn't play him?
The reason that he was saying I didn't pick Chilwell was down to height reasons. So we needed height against the Burnley team. That's why Marcus Alonso played. I'm looking at that going, but he can't defend. So it's like it doesn't really matter.
Is that the first time he'd been seen since West Brom?
Yeah.
When Lampard banished him. A bit like how Mourinho's banishing Aurier at the moment, because the same thing happened. Didn't Alonso leave the stadium at half-time?
Alonso went and sat on the coach at half-time.
And Aurier also left the stadium at half-time.
Interesting. Well, I mean, yeah, it's the thing is, like, it's Marcus. I said it about Marcus Alonso earlier. I said he played poorly at the weekend.
I want to know from a Chelsea fan's point of view, looking at Mourinho now. Mm-hmm. What do you see and how do you assess him as a Chelsea fan who obviously saw the great heights of winning back-to-back titles, where you came back and won a title, won so many cups at Chelsea. Obviously, he's very highly thought of. Also got sacked twice. But interesting enough, though, what I found out this week, which I didn't realise, is Mourinho actually lasted longer than any other Chelsea manager has, which is interesting because everyone talks about how he always goes wrong very quickly for Jose, but he lasted longer than any other of your managers who have also been successful. So I thought that was interesting. But how do you assess, from a Chelsea point of view, how Mourinho's doing at the moment with Spurs?
I think from what I saw at the beginning and what I saw at the beginning of this season as well, he brought the best out of players. This might be me watching the All or Nothing documentary as well with how he is, but it's not gospel again. You know, that's edited. He's still a good coach. I think that the problem with Mourinho now is though that trip to Madrid changed the person. Like I said, you know, he left at Porto, Chelsea, and Inter. You saw this guy, you know, he had a bit of a sparkle. He was
like he was invincible.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that it was invincible. It was the fact that the mentality. You saw this guy. It was almost like a chip on the shoulder of you called me the translator. I'm proving the point here, and he went on and did it several times. Madrid came and just destroyed him. He comes back. Chelsea apparently was on antidepressants. He's just mentally.
But he did win the league second time at Chelsea.
He did. But again, that's I think. Something went wrong there, obviously, in the third season. Man United, you just saw another chip on the shoulder. I think the problem that Tottenham had in comparison to Chelsea and Manchester United, at those two clubs, you kind of had the players that have won things and have been there and done it still. And we're like, okay, well, let's just do it again. It's really simple. You know, we can win things. That's how we roll. It's what it's in our genetics. It's in our DNA. Mourinho came into a Tottenham side which was all, they're a very good team, but they've not won anything. And he was having to drill into them to in his words, I mean, monetization, I can't say the full word, you have to be certain things to make sure that you win games. And he was having to drill that in. And he's basically already starting one step back from where he had been at previous clubs. And he's definitely rubbed off on players. Harry Kane, I can already see. I personally feel he's already a good striker. He's now a great striker. He's even more clinical. He's even more dangerous. And he's even dropped into midfield. He's helping Heung-min Son. You know, that combination now, obviously, Kane's probably going to be unavailable for the weekend, but still, that combination, you've seen it flourish on Mourinho. But along those problems of he's having to take a step back is he also hasn't evolved. He's turned slowly, I feel, into what he always used to call Wenger. You know, you're a bit of a dinosaur. And it's harsh because I love Mourinho. I still do. Even though he's in a Tottenham kit, even though when you first got him and I'd be in the office and Ben would be showing me pictures of him walking through Chelsea in a Tottenham kit and, you know, giving it all that, I still love the guy. But he's not developed. You know, Ferguson is a prime example of a manager who, even when he was not in his peak and he was retiring, he still won a league because he developed and he adjusted himself to the climate. I feel Mourinho hasn't quite adjusted, and I think his man management is something which a lot of players suffer from. He very much likes the rocket up the arse scenario, or just completely ignoring players. Modern era footballers have been wrapped in cotton wool since they're about 13, 14. They don't have, I feel, a stronger mentality as a Ledley King, as a John Terry, as a Lampard. You know, these guys are just different. They're built differently.
And that's what he said, Mourinho. He said players when he was back in his when he was managing Chelsea back in 2004, players at 22, 23, well, they were like proper men. They had a stronger mentality. But he said these days, players who are 23, 24, they're kids.
Yeah, and that's his downfall.
That's the thing.
That's his downfall. And I think that's maybe why it might have gone wrong for you guys.
But it's gone wrong recently, but I wouldn't say overall. It's still in a decent position.
Yeah,
you know, like if we were to win a trophy and get top four, obviously that's a good season for us. But obviously, someone like Mourinho, he wants to be challenging right at the top, doesn't he? That's where he's at home when he's challenging for titles. But it's an interesting one, Mourinho, because there's two ways you can look at it in his jobs since when being at Madrid. Because people say since Madrid he's lost his sparkle, but when he came back to Chelsea, he did win a league title very impressively. He we're beating City to the title, and that was quite an impressive feat at the time to come back and win it a second time. Although it did go wrong in the third season. Then moving to Man United, you could argue he's done better than any manager since post Fergie. He's probably done better than anyone.
Yeah, he won his treble.
Yeah, well, he won Europa League Cup. He finished second. No managers topped that.
No.
He's probably, he's not. Everyone's giving Ollie praise, but Jose did better than Ollie, I would say, up until this point.
I'd agree.
So that's a difficult one. And then at Spurs, people got to remember when he took over, we were in freefall under Pochettino, 14th, 12 points off top four. We had obviously a big injury crisis that year with Kane and Son being injured for long periods and whatever. Got us 6th, which is probably about par. Was an unbelievable achievement. And then this season, we were riding high earlier on, and then last 9 games we only won 2, so it's gone a bit wrong. But we're still in a cup final.
Yeah.
We're obviously in all the cups. So there's two ways of looking at it. With Jose Mourinho.
Yeah, I mean, it's even this year in general for all football clubs. It's mental.
Everyone goes on a bad run, haven't they?
Well, this is it.
On
And
a
like
bad
we
run.
said, we've said Chelsea were top of the table in December. We are now 12 points off the top in a month later. You know, we've gone on a bad run. Man United had their bad run at the beginning of the season. You guys started off a bit slow. You know, it's difficult to understand and try kind of what the barometer is. And
do you think it's to do with the football schedule potentially? Because with all the teams who are playing European football, they're like all their games being crammed in, and then obviously the other teams who aren't in Europe, their schedule's a lot more free than the schedule in European football. So they have more energy and they're able to getting more results against the top teams because of the packed schedule. Maybe that could be contributing to it.
It could be, but I have to stand by it because I've said it for years, and I don't really think it's a bit flip-flop to change. It's a case of if you are a top team and you've put yourself in the position because you're good enough to compete in all these competitions, you need to prepare for it. I think this is a bit different to others in terms of because the schedule is even more packed than usual, that you are going to be seeing more injuries. And like we said, I said earlier, these are humans as well. We need to consider all of that. But for example, I think Chelsea have rotated their squad quite well, which is why we now have a fully fit squad. We had a lot of injuries, but they've not been big injuries for consistent first team players for a long period of time. We haven't lost an entire midfield. We haven't lost we lost both our wing backs at the beginning of both our wingers at the beginning of the season. But that's so which we came back to. I think that you know, you've just got a manager squad a little bit better. And I know it sounds incredibly harsh, but I just feel like, for example, the reason I say that is I've got no sympathy for Liverpool. You know, Jurgen Klopp going, oh well, you know, it's all this, it's this. We've got problems with the schedule. You know, it's not fair. The schedule's not fair on us. You know, we're playing well, but you know, we get loads of injuries. Yet the reason Klopp's getting loads of injuries is he plays a full team against a bunch of 16-year-olds in the FA Cup. You know, it's. I think that there's a different scenarios, a different ways to look at it, but I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole. That's a whole other video.
Another whole video. But all right, what's your predictions then for Thursday?
Yeah, come on, man. Predictions. We really do. Oh, okay.
I want to know your prediction. I want to know what you think's going to happen. And you have to die on this. You have to die on this sword. It's £100 riding on it.
Since
fucking
when? Where was this conversation at? 2-1 Chelsea.
2-1 Chelsea. Do you think the way Tottenham play could play into your hands, or do you think it could play into our hands?
Oh, it'll play into your hands.
Our hands.
Definitely.
But you still think you're going to win?
I've got to back us, haven't I? I've got to back us. I think you'll definitely score, but I mean, it depends. Who will be replacing Kane? Who's your front three?
Well, last time it was Son, but Vinicius came on and did well, so probably Vinicius in this one. But then again, I think Son would probably, actually, in a weird way, I think Son actually up front will be more suited to this kind of game than against Brighton, because you're going to push up, you're going to leave space in behind with the defenders. Your three at the back. You're saying Hudson-Odoi and left wing back. You're leaving space there, so I'm thinking Son could exploit that up front, and maybe it's a better option, but. Vinicius did play well when he came on against Brighton, so I'm feeling he's probably going to start. He's going to get the nod. Mourinho's been very, you know, when you're playing well, you come in, and he's a meritocratic. What's the word? Meritocracy. Yeah. He's
I don't know what that word means.
Basically, no. He basically plays the players usually in form. He usually plays players if they play well, you come in the next game, kind of thing. Right. But yeah, I'm
use that word now.
But I'm not confident. I'm not confident in this game, and at the moment, if you gave me a draw, I mean, obviously, I'm being unhappy because it doesn't help us in the table, but I don't want to be embarrassed. I mean, I don't want to be embarrassed against you lot.
I don't think you will be, because you know what? Every single big game this season has been shit. So it's probably going to be 0-0.
That's true. I hope it's a lot of goals. Yeah, 0-0. That's true. I hope it's not 0-0, but the way we like to play could well be. Anyway, Louis, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
A massive pleasure having you on. Check out our preview going on your personal channel. That'll be going on later on. So go check that out. Link will be in the description below. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
No.